What's up and good morning, guys. Welcome back to another video. Today is part 4 of the Rhino Ranch pool / water storage for fires project. The last few videos we made great progress on getting the pool up, getting the deck in. Still, I left you guys on a little bit of a cliffhanger on the last video with whether or not we have caused some type of major issue to my wells. And well, I wish I had an answer as of this video, but as of now, I do not. I got one well guy to call me back. He says at some point this week he's gonna come out and check for me. Not really sure when that's gonna happen. Until then, we're kind of in a weird holding pattern. But we're not gonna let that stop us. We're gonna keep moving along with the deck for the above ground pool. To get everybody caught up, if you are new and jumping onto this video, because we live in a heavily fire prone area, even, I mean, most of California is, and not kind of a lot of other states are becoming fire prone as well. Just in case, I want a lot of water storage. So instead of spending tens of thousands of dollars on water tanks that really it's just a water tank and you don't actually get to use it or enjoy it, we've got 15,000 gallons of water here now available. We just throw a suction line of my pump in there. We now have 15,000 gallons of water to use to defend the house. A lot of people said, yeah, that's great until a helicopter comes in and suctions all your water out. And honestly, if they're suctioning water out to use around here, I mean, you can't really get mad at that. However, if I'm also in the process of using it to defend my house, and it's gonna be really hard to get your suction hose in there when I'm like in there in a Speedo on a unicorn floaty, slapping your hose away as you're trying to get it down in the pool. Now we've pretty much got all of our what we're calling beams in place, and I'm going to reiterate in this video, I'm not a deck builder. I've never really built decks. It's all new to me. I'm a concrete type of guy. Floating wood decks, it's not my specialty. It's not my favorite thing in the world because they don't last forever. Concrete pretty much lasts for most of your lifetime. Before we close this area off, we're putting weed barrier down, and we know weed barrier is not 100%, but it'll give us a little bit better of a shot of weeds not growing down in here. Then we got to come in and we've got to do our floor joist system, which is going to span this way for this section and then that way for that section and then flip-flop back to there. My brain doesn't really work in like framer brain, so I kind of have to start building things for it to start to make sense. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my layout on one of these boards. I'm gonna put this back ledger board in place, and then because we have to be pretty precise on that front side, we can't just run them long and then cut them like a lot of people would do on decks because there's a pool in the way and the water's high enough. I mean, maybe it's not. I could probably do it without getting my saw in the water, but it's probably best that we don't do it that way. I'm gonna get like a little section in here, and then we'll chalk line all of our boards where we want them to cut. We'll one by one pull them out, cut them, put them back, pull them back, cut them, put them out. It's gonna be a little bit of a tedious process, but I think we can manage. Now for Trex decking, they recommend 12-inch on center spacing. You can do 16-inch. I did 16 on the hunting blind up there, and there's zero sag or warpage or anything like that. But because this is such a big open space, I feel like we should probably go 12-inch on center because it's gonna get hot. The boards are gonna heat up. I've seen Trex decks at 16 on center, and they're kind of like this because the boards aren't as solid and as thick as a normal wood board would be. It's a lot more lumber to do 12 on centers, but we're gonna go 12-inch spacing on our floor joists. Spacing. Get all of these squared up. A little while there. Well, made a little bit of a change of plans. Now that I've got my back ledger board in place, Abel's gonna go and cut these 4x flush. It just looks like it's gonna be a pain in the butt. The stack of wood isn't necessarily the greatest. It's got some twists and stuff in it and some cupping on the boards. So trying to just set them in place and hope that they're in the right spot while they're like kind of doing one of these and there's no nails to hold them in place is kind of a pain in the butt. So what I think we're gonna do is we're gonna attach and nail all of this side off. We'll slide it into place. We'll do that all the way down. Then we'll snap our line. Man, 12 on centers definitely eats up a ton of wood. My whole pile is gone. We got to go buy a good bit more, but we are looking pretty good here. This is gonna be a solid freaking deck, let me tell you. That's a lot of weight right here. But you can see we kept it away from the wall just so I can get on the back side and I can nail into the back. And then now we're gonna push it all the way up against the wall, but we're gonna do a string line because the wall's got some weird bows and stuff in it. There's gonna be gaps against the walls. I mean, it's a rock wall. You can see there's just so much variation in the rocks that we can't get completely flush to it. If we wanted, we can get really close and then I could slide the Trex up to it and scribe every little freaking rock, but I just don't think it's worth that. Not for this. This ain't the time to geek out on details like that. But let's just look down this. Let's see how good we're looking. Ooh, ooh, we're looking pretty good, pretty good. So we're gonna slide it back on this side, slide it back on that side. We'll run a string line and figure out what a straight line is, because we don't want this thing to be a parallelogram or out of whack, because that you're gonna see when we go to lay down our Trex. You're gonna have one piece that's full on one side and skinny on the other. Not saying we're gonna completely eliminate that issue, but we're going to do our best to do that. Then we'll mark the fronts where we want these fronts cut, and then we got to figure out how the heck we're going to cut this with the pool being right there. Poquito más. Está. Now that we have slid all of this back up against the wall, I was going to try and make it like parallel to the pool, but unfortunately the pool's like, I don't know, the wall's so weird that if I make it parallel to the pool, we're going to be way away from the wall over here, and it's not the right way to do it. To me, it just looks funky and there's a giant gap. There's already kind of a decent gap there, so we just push it up against the wall and we'll straighten it out on the front. Now, I kind of set myself up with this booby trap, but there's two boards in here that are not shot in because they basically join at the joints of these two fascia boards or ledger boards, whatever we're gonna call them. And that's those boards right there. That one's actually shot in, but on the other ones, it was easier just to shoot them in after we figure this whole thing out. And I was like, man, I gotta really make sure I don't step on those if I'm walking across the joist, because obviously that thing's gonna fall and you're gonna fall. And well, Papa Rhino called me. I got totally distracted, took a couple of steps, tumbled, of course, on like the deepest side over there, and you know, got a little bit of a boo-boo there, and I think there's a matching one on my hip, and thankfully the one on the arm's really not bad, but you always gotta pay attention. Don't move on my part right there. We're gonna feel that one later. We went ahead and chalked our line where we're gonna cut. We're gonna try to keep as much sawdust out of the pool. Originally I was gonna pull these entire panels out, but they're gonna be a pain in the butt to move. Sí. Aquí. ¿Está bueno? ¿Tú quieres más open?
No, está bien.
Okay. And then
¿Dónde para?
Es atrás. No, es aquí. Mira, ponle tu mano aquí. Está. Arriba es más rápido y abajo es más largo.
Sí, más largo para mí de mano acá.
Ok, es este. Está. Otro lado. Está.
Sí.
Bien. We'll see how this works, guys. This might be a little bit sketchy, but we're gonna have Chava hold it up. I'm gonna cut it. The piece of wood's probably gonna fall in the pool. Should float though. We can pull it out, and then Abel's gonna try to catch as much dust as he can from the dust port. The dust ports on these Milwaukee Cirque Saws, they work really well, but they just throw a bunch of crap right in the wrong way. And I believe there's a vacuum attachment for that came in the box, but I probably threw that away. So it's not very practical for us to have a vacuum on a Cirque Saw. Abel and Chava are now, well, they've already cut all the blocks. They're gonna be slapping all of the blocking that goes in between. Basically, it just kind of rigids everything up. It would typically be called like fire blocking inside of a house, but obviously it's not fire blocking out here. So we're gonna run a whole line of blocks all down the center. I'll show you that in a second once they start getting those in. I'm now coming over here and trying to figure out the next material run that I need to make. And then I'm realizing like things are gonna kind of get a little bit funky here. I framed this for the 2x8s to run this way. However, if we're running Trex, like if we keep the Trex running short ways, like we were doing over here, then we need to flip it, and we actually need to continue these all the way out, which means I'll need to add some more 2x8s in here for these to rest on. Not the end of the world. It's not a ton more wood to do it. It's just something that, again, my brain doesn't really work in framing as well as I would like it to, because I don't do it very often, but I think we'll manage to get that in there. Now I had to step away for a little bit. I'm got a call about a neighbor who has to put a horse down tomorrow, and they need a hole to bury it on their property. They don't have an excavator. I don't think they have any kind of tractor actually. So we loaded up the Mini X. We're gonna go help them out. We're gonna go dig a hole. I really don't want to be there the day that they are putting the horse down, so I opted just to go today. I'm an animal lover, not a horse guy, but you know, I don't want to see an animal get put down. I also ran and ordered up all of the lumber for will call for tomorrow to pick up to maybe finish the deck other than the Trex. We still haven't ordered the Trex yet. Ugh, spent another $1,000. We are now at $2,600 just in lumber for the deck, and we're still not even anywhere near what the Trex is going to cost. Back with another day since we are out of lumber, and I need to actually go pick it up right now. Abel and Poppy are doing me a solid here and digging this little section for fencing by hand. We're kind of bouncing back and forth now between fencing and pool deck. Reason we're doing this by hand is my septic system is right here, and I don't want to run an auger through here and just end up damaging something. It's just not worth it. Thankfully, these guys are absolute rock stars, and a lot of the projects we do, we can't get equipment into, so we're kind of unfortunately used to digging stuff by hand. But with the right tools, the Bosch hammer over there with a spade bit on it helps get through this hard dirt pretty good. So you can see this orange line behind me here. That's about where the fence is going to end. There'll be a 20-foot gate right here, so we can still pull in with plenty of room for the trailers. I'm going to swap out trailers right now. We're going to leave the dump trailer. We're going to take the deck over because we're getting some 16-footers, and I don't know how it's all bundled up, but it's probably bundled in a way that's not going to fit inside of the deck over, and I don't want to break the bundle. I have learned doing the will call thing at Home Depot is kind of the way to go. Other than the fact that you're relying on somebody else to select your lumber, which if it's super crucial, go select it yourself. However, if you have to take, you know, I don't know what I have right there, 48 2x8x12, stacking all that on your cart, plus all kinds of other stuff, it ain't worth it. It's much simpler and like has made my life much easier. Just will call it, and you show up, everything's already picked, bundled, and all they do is just load it on your trailer. No waiting around, it's great. All right, we have pulled up, had them release the order. She is sitting right there, ready to get thrown on the trailer. Lumber is loaded and strapped down. Back to the ranch we go. Check out this sick work rig. Yeah, we got a little baby dump trailer. Am I the only one that thinks these VWs are sick if you put them on like some aggressive off-road wheels and tires? These ain't necessarily them, but at least they put bigger wheels and tires. They're actually kind of cool. Hate to admit it. We've made it back to the ranch. We're gonna use the old Coyote to unload the lumber because we're gonna be spreading it out. It's going to different places. Some is for the fence, some is for the deck. And then I've got a pretty expensive delivery showing up today. It's gonna be my next project. I've like triple stacked projects this month, and I don't recommend doing that. That gets very expensive very quick, and I regret triple stacking projects. I just noticed we're missing one of the supports that you put in when you raise up the arms on the front so it doesn't come crashing down if you're working on it. Apparently the bolt walked its way out. I don't know, Papa Rhino was in this thing yesterday, but I just saw it sitting on the floor right there below me. All right, into the stack we go. This is all going for the pool deck. We've got the second stack, but woo! Tractor's pretty light on the rear end. We're gonna be real slow and real careful with this one. We don't need to tip the tractor again. We ain't going tractor tipping today. Now for this section of the fencing, I want to do it pretty close to level. I don't want any weird angle cuts or anything like that. It's a short section. We can shoot it pretty level. Again, if there's low spots underneath, we can always bring a little bit of dirt in and kind of bring it up to the bottom of the fence. Because our main thing, and the reason I'm running even 4 rungs on there, is I don't want goats to be able to get through. Obviously 3 horizontal pieces of wood there would keep the donkeys out, but that 4th one that we put real low is to keep the goats out. Our current goats really wouldn't fit even, I think, with 3. Maybe they would with 3, but you know, in case we ever get baby goats again or anything like that, we want to make sure they can't get in. Fence posts are all in. I see the delivery truck just pulling up right there. We're gonna jump in the Coyote. We're gonna go unload him. I cannot show you guys what I got though. That's gonna be for another video. So we're gonna end it here for the day. It has been brutally hot, hotter than the last couple of days. So I'm gonna send the guys home a little bit early and we'll just call it a day. But we're starting off this morning with some good news. We are almost all the way through our chemical list for the pool. If you guys are very new to pools like I am, and you guys have a Leslie's Pool Supply in town, maybe other companies do it as well, I'm sure they do. I believe Leslie's is a pretty big chain though. Basically, you could take them a sample of your water. I just put it in a water bottle, took it down there. They hook it up to a computer, they test your water, tells you how everything's looking, where it should be, what your water quality is, and then how to fix it. It literally has a step-by-step process along with all the chemicals you need, how much to add, when to add them, how long to wait after adding them. It's actually pretty dang convenient. So we are all the way through now to this step. We have to wait 4 more hours. Then we do that step, wait 4 hours, and then we got the last step. It is saying we need to add 433 pounds of salt to the pool. That's the very last step because we're converting this again to a saltwater pool. However, I feel like that number is very high, but I don't really know. I feel like I've seen on the internet like 90 to 100 pounds, but at the same time, that could have been a smaller pool and I just might not be remembering correctly. But once we get to that point, we'll reevaluate before we just throw 500 pounds of salt into this pool. But today we are back on framing the deck. The fence is gonna wait. We got all those posts in, so that's good. But let's get back to hopefully finishing out this floor joist system today. This deck has taken way too long, but man, this heat has been brutal. Look at even Big Walt. We got Big Walt's butt. He's just hanging out under the tree. What's up, Big Walt? How you doing, buddy? You hanging out in the shade? Yeah, you enjoying the shade? A little bit toasty for a big cow like you, huh? Let's get his favorite spot to get scratched right there. Oh yeah, oh that feels good, huh? Yeah, you like that. Here, good boy. Now, if you remember what I said about letting Home Depot pick the lumber for you, you end up with bananas like that. That's no good. I mean, we might be able to cut that up and use it somewhere, but for these long stretches that are gonna be the ledger boards on the face of the deck that you're gonna see, we definitely don't want them there. Especially considering like this is the side you see when you first drive up to the house. So I'm trying to be selective-ish and make sure we don't put anything too ugly and all kinds of wonky and out of whack. Right now we're cutting all of these boards. These are gonna be 4'6". They're a little bit long, but that's what's going to run this way. Again, similar to the other side floor joist system. They're gonna run this way. We're gonna run them a little bit long, and then we're gonna cut them in place over the pool. That way, once they're all in, we snap a line and we know we have a nice straight plane. Now we're into the spot where we knew we would run into like seeing how out of square this thing was. And again, remember, we were measuring when this pool was half folded in. The wall is completely kind of wonky. We tried to match it with the pool, but we knew there was just gonna be some issues. We're building a deck floating up in the air next to something that was kind of laying down on the ground until it stood itself up and settled where it wanted to settle. So coming across these 2x8s didn't exactly line up. And then being that, you know, my brain figured I was gonna, you know, throw the 2x8s this way, but obviously that wouldn't work out for our decking. We decided to run them this way. We put some more bracing in. You can see the 2x8 below going across that way. I sistered those joists together, and then over here we put in a bunch of blocking, tied everything in. Everything is sitting on doubled up 2x8s. Abel and Chava are going through and they're doing all the blocking right now. Blocking is like one of the worst parts of all this. You do all this work to get all of this in, and then you got to go through and do this tedious job of putting in all these little blocks in between, and usually they're about the same. Sometimes they're off a little bit. If the board's cupped and weird, it wants to fight you. It's nice having these two guys that can go do that while I move ahead, because normally it's me doing all of this plus the blocking. So those guys are on blocking. We're figuring out this edge. You can see I've got this 2x8 sticking out to the edge of the pool, and we're only about like a maybe 3/8 of a difference, which I honestly thought this pool was turned more than that compared to the deck. But I'm gonna run a string line in between that one and that one down there, and then from there I'll measure across, and I'm just only gonna put a few of these. We don't need a bunch because our boards are running this way, so it's not like we need every foot or whatever. But this is just going to hold my little fascia board that's going to go there. I did buy some 2x6 pressure treated fascia, only because the pool's a little high right here and I don't want the weight of the deck sitting on the edge of the pool. But I think looking at that side, the pool sits a little bit lower, and we're talking only like that much. Maybe I'll swap it out and actually go 2x8 pressure treated. Then on the front of that, should we go Trex, I'm going to use Trex's little like 1/2 inch or 3/8 inch thick fascia, so you'll have Trex all the way around the rim of the pool. Knocked these out pretty quick, wasn't too bad, but again, you can see that this side really does have a pretty good bow in the middle, considering this end piece and that end piece are the same distance from the edge, but you'll see how it kind of walks over in the middle. And again, this pool is designed to move. These corners don't lock in, so when you're in there splashing, water's moving around, the sides have some play and some give into them, so there's just no way to get it perfect because the pool isn't perfect. But my goal was you didn't see too much of the edge of the pool. However, on these short sides, it is what it is. We're not really gonna be able to eliminate it. Now we're gonna go do on that side what we did right here, which took a ton of time. As you can see, it's, yeah, not the prettiest looking, but it's gonna work. And that's really all that matters because it's gonna get covered in Trex, and the Trex will hide this little variation. I don't think anybody's gonna walk over here and be like, oh, is that side an inch different from this side? Or maybe somebody will, don't know, not a deck builder. Ooh, do I risk it? Do I risk walking across? I'm gonna say no. We're getting down. I've already busted up one leg. We don't need to bust up another. Now I just got my quote back on a Trex, and I mean, if you guys have ever priced out Trex, you know how expensive it is. We're looking at, I don't know, we're in the 2,600 in so far, not including labor, which is a significant expense. We've been cranking away on this thing for at least, what, 2 weeks now at this point? Labor, very expensive. Just the framing material, very expensive, and the Trex is just next level. I'm pretty set on Trex because I think it looks the best. Obviously, it weather's the best. I know it does get hot, but everything gets hot. Probably spent an extra, I don't know, 500 to 1,000 in framing the 12s on center for Trex. I would hate to have done that for nothing. I'm gonna go explore one other option with an actual treated decking and see, because again, the pool's not going to last 20 years. I don't need the decking to last 20 years. I don't want to maintain decking, I don't want splinters and all that, but at the same time, if it's like a quarter of the cost to do wood versus Trex, it might just make sense in this case. And man, do I hate using some of these boards. They're just so bowed, but we're down to the last couple that we need. We have like almost the exact amount. The blocking will help straighten them a little bit, and none of them are on the faces or the edges that you're actually gonna see how kind of out of whack and wonky those are. We're coming down to the end of the day though, so we're just gonna do our last little bit here. We're not gonna get this side finished up. I know we're not the fastest in the world. Again, it's 100 degrees out. These guys aren't framers, so they're kind of following some of my direction. I'm halfway making this up as I go. And it's just kind of a slow process. We're kind of figuring it out as we build it, you know? And I think we've got us a pretty decent looking deck going. Somebody might mention it, somebody might not, but we got our hurricane ties going on both sides here. I just alternated one on that side, one on this side. I don't think, you know, we're too worried about this thing picking up like a roof. Air will be able to pass through with the Trex decking, but she's extra secure with all of those hurricane ties, and that is those brackets that you see right there. But now, I was gonna wrap up the video yesterday because this part of the frame is just getting super repetitive, and I don't want the videos to be boring for you guys, but we got Papa Rhino that showed up today. Him and Chava are gonna be working on this portion of the fence. Me and Abel are gonna finish up here. However, I've got a well guy coming out, so I don't wanna leave you guys on another cliffhanger of not knowing what's going on with the well. We're gonna find out hopefully today. And I got me a new GoPro head mount. Found on Amazon. They still sell the older model because the new GoPro head mount model completely sucks, and I lost it anyway. But the old model, the head mount, it's where it's at. So You'll get some headshots today off this big old 5-head. Espérate, voy a poner este straight con the metro. Ponle mis 12. Lápiz. So right now what I'm doing is I'm putting all of my boards on the layout. Oh, they're gonna move a little bit. I don't want to attach them yet because I need to pick them up a little bit to be able to cut them with the circ saw. But by getting them on layout, it means that when we go to snap our chalk line, we're not like crooked because this board's way over here and the line goes across it straight and we end up with a crooked cut. So we want them basically to be where they're gonna live. It'd be easier if we could attach them, but we can't to be able to cut this properly. So I'm gonna make sure my tape is straight. So you can see here, the tape wasn't straight, or at least parallel, where I'm pulling from over there. When you do that, you can easily grow an 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch. You can see I'm an 1/8 off right there on that mark. And when I do something like that and I screw up, I'll usually put a line to off the real mark. So we know, I mean, I guess you could try and scribble that one out, but you know the other one is the real one. And the reason I'm actually marking these is so later when we come back after we cut them, we're not having to pull the tape again. We can just put these bad boys right back on their lines. Now we got to get the tape back and hopefully not knock all these out of place when the hook hits them. Oh, there we go. Oh, let go, let go. There we go. So the way I'm kind of deciding where I want my wood is I'm basically running my square down right about to the edge of the like the outside edge of the upper rail on the pool. That gives us room to put 1.5 inches of whatever material plus, you know, really 3/4 to a 1/2 inch of fascia right there, and it should get us flushed out. But again, this side of the pool also has a big old bow in it, so I just do it at both ends and then we chalk a line, which means this is perfectly straight. Whatever the pool is going to do, it's going to do. We can only compensate so much for that. We'll say, I can't wait till we have some type of decking down. I am sick of walking on all of these joists. This side, which was actually my bad side, ended up lining up pretty freaking well. I thought this one was going to be the one that fought us the most. However, that side ended up fighting us the most. And then we're going to snap our chalk line, which will give us a line on all of these. We'll go back through, we'll square down, and then just like we did that side, a whole lot of awkward cutting. Now with the chalk line, when you're running it out these long distances, you want to avoid like shocking it because it'll make the chalk come off. If you guys don't know what these are, it's just basically a string line, and inside that little container has a bunch of chalk. So as you're pulling it out, the chalk sticks to the string. We snap them, and what that does is basically exactly where that string is. As long as you kept it tight and good, it's going to be a nice straight line. If you let them get loose or anything weird, you're going to end up with a not so straight line. They're a very simple tool, however you can use them incorrectly. And then you can see I marked this one because that's where the thicker part of the tubing is. However, we're going to cut on this one. So once he's on his point over there, I'm going to actually run it long, make sure I hit this mark, and I'm going to run it all the way to this one. ¿Está able? Okay. All right. Tu lado también. There we go. And you can see when we remove it, and there's our line. We're going to square down from there, and that'll be a cut all the way down. You can see just how far out we are over here. We should be about 1.5 inches over to get close to the edge of the pool, but I don't want the deck to make a weird radius. So we're just gonna go straight. You're gonna see this edge of the pool. It unfortunately is what it is. Alrighty, y'all. Well, the well guy just left, and I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. Let's just start with the bad news. Bad news is the new well, the pump inside of that, it kicks off every like 8 minutes. So it's got a pump saver on it. I've been doing a little pump research and well research. And basically the pump saver does just what it sounds like. So should there be an issue, either you run out of water or the pump starts getting hot and it's drawing too much current because there's an issue with the impeller on the pump or something like that, it kicks the pump off. So one thing I noticed was after 5 to 8 minutes, the new well was kicking itself off, which also means that when we were filling the pool, I was like, oh, I'm gonna turn both pumps on. That way we're not taxing just one well. The front one only would run for 5 to 8 minutes, and then it takes an hour for the pump saver to let it kick back on. So really, even though I thought I was running 2 wells. I was still drawing off the old original well to the property to fill the pool. So we probably pulled close to 15,000 gallons out of the old original well, because the new well really wasn't doing much because the pump was going bad. So that's the bad news. Now, if you've been following along, you guys know that since day one that we moved in, this entire pump house area burned down. I mean, you can still see we've got the burned down stuff right here from when the fires came through. Well, I thought this was the good well, the other well was the bad well. So I had all of this hooked back up. We put in a new pump all the way down in the ground. And well, I've been living off this one for 3 years. And this is really the only issue we've ever had. And obviously we kind of caused this issue ourselves, but for 3 years, this pump has been doing all of the work. And I'd never actually even touched the other one, other than I'd kick it on a couple of times a year just to cycle the pump. So the well guy came out, tested all of this, and it turns out all of this is functioning just fine. I thought because there's a pipe at the top of the tank that the water comes in at, that I saw no water when this was on, that I was getting no water. Well, apparently this one, being the old setup, has a pipe coming in at the bottom of the tank. So I would never would have even seen the water coming in. So all of this tests fine. Pump's great. Seems like we have water. It probably just took a couple days to refill, which, you know, makes sense because of how much we drew out. That's a huge relief because this is what I've been relying on. So being that all of this works, like, we're in good shape. Now, the good well, having the pump out, it can get pretty costly. The pump itself, I think, is like $4 grand is what he was saying, plus labor, plus if they pull all the pipe out and we need to swap out the galvanized pipe, that's gonna, you know, the costs just keep going up and up and up. However, we haven't had to rely on that one for 3 years, so there's really no emergency as long as this one's working good to even repair the other one yet. So he is going to come out and tie, there's a float switch in the tank that has never been tied to the new well since the fire, because we tied it to the old well. So he's going to come out, we're going to install some new new breakers and stuff for the other well and just get that thing ready to go. We'll still be able to use it. It'll just kick off every 8 minutes, and then it takes an hour before it kicks back on. And since we already know that the pump is damaged, I don't care, like, let's just use it till it dies at this point. What does it matter, right? That thing's gonna go out anyway. But it's not like we even need it as long as this one's up and running. And well, it seems like this one's up and running. That tank got filled up in like the 20 minutes that he was here. It went from 2/3 to full. Even he was kind of shocked. That old trusty here, my old trusty well, was able to pull it off, but I think we're back in good shape, guys. I feel a lot better, because without water, you got a useless property. Now, me and Abel have pretty much got all of the framing done. I'm taking these 2x6s back though. And you can see on the camera there is this fork cam has been great. Look at that, right up underneath. So I bought these 2x6 pressure treated 16 footers because I was gonna put them around the rim of the pool. The reason being is in some spots the pool is just a little bit higher than the bottom edge of my 2x8 floor joist. And so I was trying to take the easy way out and being like, I'll just go 2x6. I don't want to fight a couple of spots being a little bit higher on that edge. But we slapped one up there just to see how it looked, and it don't look good. So we're gonna get 2x8s, and then we'll just kind of have to scribe the 2x8 accordingly. In other news though, Papa Rhino and Chava are chugging along. Look at that, look how good this fence portion looks. I know it's a little bit high off there. I opted just to do this level, so if I want, we can bring the dirt up just a little bit underneath there. But this is looking good. We left out the last post because I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. Probably gonna end up putting in a steel post. It's gonna be a 20-foot gate. It's probably gonna be a 20-foot swing gate, which is gonna be very heavy and taxing on whatever it is hinging off of. So I'd rather not try and hinge it off a piece of wood. So it'll probably be something steel going in there. Look at this, y'all. This whole section of fence is almost done now. I think I had left off, well, you can see the different colored 2x4s and 2x6 I had left off about here. Going on, they're round in the corner in front of where barbecues, RIP barbecue used to live. Looking good over here, looking good. Just take a moment to appreciate how the property is starting to look now. Oh, I love seeing this fencing separating the house. We only need 5 gates, one last little section of fencing over there, and we will be completely separated from the animals pooping on and destroying everything around the house. I'm so freaking excited for that. Well, we've made a lot of progress over the last 2 weeks. We've got the horse here. She is dusting me out. She's out sunbathing. She hates when the AC is on. She's always a cold dog. Gunner is always a hot dog. I've been in the sun too long. If that was, I don't even know. Was that funny? Maybe that probably wasn't funny. Got to get some more wood. finalize some details, and then the framing will officially be done, and I'm very, very excited for that. This is about the time of the project where I'm like just over the repetitiveness, and there's a lot of repetitiveness going on here. But with that, we're gonna wrap up. We got great news on the well. Well, I mean, semi-great news. Good enough news on the well. The pool is coming closer. All the chemicals are in the pool, which means I could probably jump in it right now if I really wanted to. This place is really taking shape. Super excited. Thank you for all of you guys that are following along, those of you that are interested in the progress, and those of you that comment, like, share these videos with your friends, subscribe, all of that stuff. I just totally changed up the whole way that I end a video, but that's all right. I'd be very honored if you guys would go check out workforapparel.com, so we can get shirts like this, hats, key tags, hitch covers, jerky, all kinds of really cool stuff. Workforapparel.com. There's always a link down in the description. You guys are the best. It's the weekend. We're going to enjoy it. Back to work on Monday.
Damn.